again, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mental House with me, your host, Khadija. Whatever side of the diaspora that you are on, I want to welcome you and thank you for being out there. Because I want to drop some stuff off my dome. You know how that go. It's more room out than in, you guys. And if I don't, then I will be in the real mental house. I guess what's really disturbing me today, because I got a couple emails, and they were talking about it on Facebook about these 64,000 girls of African descent, and Latina that are missing from the DC area. And, or, uh, I think that's how many it was. But y'all know what I'm talking about. And it could be more at this point. Uh, I thought that it was a very heated, interesting discussion because a lot of us took, and I know I was one of them. So let me just start with myself. I took the opinion that some things are a community issue. Wait, let me hear me out. Hear me out. Nobody can teach you how to be your brother's keeper. But if they haven't taught you how to be your brother's keeper, then you'll see the result. Okay? If nobody has taught you that, then there's no love for nobody that you have. And you just regurgitating the same kind of disassociated behavior that you had during slavery. People used to make fun of me because I used to take my kids everywhere they went. I used to drop them off at the Boys and Girls Club, and I would be there, take a book, and bring them back home. Or my daughter had practice, I would make sure I'm taking her, and then either I'm sitting in the car or I'm in whatever. But I wasn't leaving them to roll down the desert like tumbleweeds. That is insane to me. So the first point of contention that I have is with us. Because I remember people making fun of me. Like, you take those kids everywhere they go. I mean, you just going to spoil them. And what the hell is wrong with you? This is about protection. And this is back then. All these nuts that are running around in this community. All the things that are happening, my job is to keep them safe. And that comes before anything. And guess what? I know that if I take them and I bring them back, then there's an element of confidence that I have. It's an element of less stress. So what you're saying to me is you don't think my kids deserve that. Or you don't think the child deserved my time like that. I spend too much time. Having and raising children is the ultimate sacrifice. A lot of us shouldn't even have done this shit. Excuse my language. A lot of y'all shouldn't have done it because you are not willing and you're not ready and you don't want the ultimate sacrifice. Whether you're a foster parent, whether you're a biological parent, it doesn't really matter. So, but it's a commitment. So, my responsibility to this human being is to make sure they are safe, number one. And they are protected. That's my instinct. So my intuition, why in the world would you think that these children are getting extra just because their parents are taking them to and from? Are you jealous? That's why 64,000 girls and all these girls are missing. Who was responsible? Back in the summer, I would see 13, 14, 15-year-old girls outside, 1 o'clock in the morning, unsupervised, unbridled, unprotected, and undisciplined, out in these streets. Out in these streets. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, what kind of a mom do they have what is the mom doing that have allowed these girls to think it's okay for them to be out, because nothing good is going to come out of it. Everybody know the freaks come out at night. So why is your little ass out here? It's insane, and it's insanity. So when you put that in perspective, the first line of contention was us. You know, I remember when we had a hotline from way up in the Midwest all the way down south, going through that Bible Belt, where you could call somebody and say, hey, the church van coming down there, and sister so-and-so coming down, all of them coming in, but make sure you protect them. When they get to North Carolina, they'll stay with so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. When they get to Texas, they'll stay. This is how we looked out for one another. We protected, and we had the heart. We don't even care anymore. We don't. So, and I'm saying that to say, I think about how Jeffrey Dahmer ran amok, because this is what this story took me back to. And all those young black men were missing in the community, and I think a lot of us relied too much on the police. I think a lot of us relied too much on the police. And and it wasn't the day, of course, of social media. So I try to give a lot of count to that as well. But the fact that he was able, one person, to run through this community and kill people and eat them and do all kinds of crazy, you know, I mean, I know some people got some Jeffrey Dahmer stories about Jeff that's just insane. And at that time, I was a health inspector, and that's what I was doing. And I don't mean to get off, but y'all know how I go. Let me just tell y'all a story. And when you would go over there, it would smell so bad, and it would be like, oh, it's the dumpsters, it's the dumpsters. I said, no, you know the stench of dead bodies. You could smell it. You could smell the funk. Now, of course, it just seemed to me that a lot of that was in the garbage cans, in the dumpsters, was a lot of those dead bodies that were left to decompose, or that he had put in that acid and dumped the stuff inside of the dumpsters and the garbage cans back there. And we thought so little about ourselves, and we live in such conditions that we've given up on ourselves, and we consider it just ghetto, as opposed to not even caring about anything. Just because you poor don't mean you have to just be destructive to yourself. Anybody in their right mind can smell death. Whether it's dead rats, whether it's dead cats, dogs, you smell it. And the fact that Jeffrey Dahmer was able to get away with all those men disappearing and killing them in that one spot amongst us, right in the heart of the community, is just as ridiculous. That's why I have to agree with whether you think Willie Lynch was a real person or not, when he said that it's going to take a big, big phenomenon. Not a small phenomenon. If you want this stuff to change, just like we had to brutalize and beat them into it, we had to make them watch the most hideous of atrocities and fill them with fear in order to make the person that we have today, which is a person that hates himself, who has uncontrolled anger, who, because he lives in a world where he's invalidated, unvalidated, and the rulers are psychopathic, they're oppressive, and we're made to live under some of these conditions that the mind just can't handle. And so, with that being said, some of us have lost the capacity, and we've disassociated from our children. We've disassociated from the things that used to be important to us. And all this stuff, you know, you have to add drugs and alcohol to it, how they dumped that in the community, and that also numbed us to a degree to the pain that we're having, and we didn't want to get in touch with it. So it's another distraction. But there's no way in the world all those young men. It just reminds me of that. All those young men. Oh my God, that disappeared. And if y'all don't remember, Stephen Hicks, Stephen Tomei. Remember, I mean these. I think those were the only. If I'm not mistaken, don't make me I don't want to say nothing that's false. But I think that those might have been the only two victims that were Caucasian, or yeah, might have been the only ones. One of them, Stephen Hicks, and Stephen Tomei. He was 24. James Doxeter, 14. Richard Guerrero, 23. Anthony Sears, 26. Raymond Smith, 33. Eddie Smith, 27. Ernest Miller, 22. Oh, Ernest Miller, he really did crazy stuff with him. He removed his flesh with acid, bleached the skeleton, and kept it in his wardrobe. He also kept the victim's biceps and placed them in the freezer for later consumption. David Thomas, 23. Curtis Straughter, 19. Earl Lindsay, 19. Tony Hughes. That was a friend of my brother's. Conorak Simpson Phone was 14. Tony was 31. Matt Turner was 20. Jeremiah Weinberger, 23. Oliver Lacey, 23. Brad Branderhoff, 25. You know, one of the stories that the people tell, and I know I'm going off a little bit, about those first officers that came to the apartment and saw Jeffrey victims, when Tracy Edwards ran and told these officers, this is the guy, so they go back up into his apartment. And of course, by me being a health inspector, that was one of my areas at that time, or a little bit afterwards, so I could go back and talk to some of the neighbors about what had happened. And there was, I think her name was Nisi. One of the things that was crazy is that they heard the officer say, "Get your cuffs," and the officer described it as him hearing a scream, and he didn't know that the scream was coming from him. Because what happened was, when he went in that room, he wasn't going to go in the room at first. Tracy kept telling him, y'all got to go in the room, go in the room, go in the room, because Dahmer was unusually calm, like he always was. And he didn't want the officers, he didn't want them to go into that bedroom. But if fate had it was the time was up, the officer did go into the bedroom. But had he went into the bathroom, he would have fell out, because it was a head on the shower thing. And if he would have pulled the curtain back, there was a cadaver in the bathtub. Cut open, split open, and insides and stuff pulled out and everything. But he didn't go into the bathroom. He went into the bedroom. He had a little kitchen refrigerator in there as well. And what made the officer, he said, "Hey, put the cuffs on him," is because he saw these pictures. And these pictures had various corpse pictures, and people in different positions, their penises cut off and penises on things. And he was like, hey, maybe this black dude is telling the truth. Okay. And from what I gather, those officers had to file for disability because they couldn't get their minds right afterwards. And because that started a whole macabre of just unbelievable things, that where the officers was going out into the hallways and vomiting in the apartment building. I don't know if they said all that in the press, but some of those people that lived in that building were saying, so then they started getting them all out of there, getting them out of the building. They said, oh, okay, y'all got it. This is a crime scene. This is a freaking crime scene. The officers out there vomiting, and it was Miller, Officer Miller, I believe. These are not no little guys. These are guys that, are pretty big. And then they said Jeffrey Dahmer was hog-tied. He was on the ground. They had put him in a hog-tie because he started whining and screaming like a freaking animal. He had started howling. He had actually totally disassociated from being a human being. Okay. The fact of the matter is, all those people her name were missing from this town. And we couldn't get no answers because we weren't unified enough. We weren't unified enough. And we should have put pressure, more pressure. And that's what we're going to have to start doing. And if we don't think to do that for our loved ones, we can't expect nobody else to. We really can't. There's no way in the world girls should be traveling up and down these streets by themselves. And there's no way in the world you should have a loved one that feels that they can't even call you and say, hey, I'm safe. That's the way we show love and concern for one another. And as human beings, that's what makes us stay connected. And I'm going to stop now because I know I'm all over the place. I know it. That was one of those mornings. But y'all get it. Start paying attention. Start loving on yourself, loving on your family members. Let them know that you're concerned about them. Hey, what you got to do this weekend? How you doing it? Blah, blah, blah. Be concerned. And then once we start loving ourselves again, I guarantee you, you will see a change in how we are treating ourselves, and you will see a change in how the world treats us. Because we dictate. And the earth rotates to our dictate. Now, check that out. All right, I'm going to go. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, keep yourself lightly envision, stay out of the negativity, and let the light shine down on you. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe and share. I'll see you next time in the mental house.